Hello folks, my name is Andres Quintero and welcome to my final project presentation. This is on Horizon, the OpenStack dashboard project and mentorship. This is for the seminar in advanced software development class for spring of 2024. Again, my name is Andres Quintero. I am in my senior year of college. My final semester is actually going to be summer 2024. I'm signed up for the user interface user experience class, and looking forward to getting some knowledge in that aspect of web development and becoming a better developer and finally seeing my last course in this program. The program I'm currently involved in is Bachelor's in Computer Technology and Software Development. I actually have a prior bachelor's. It's in Business Administration and Organizational Leadership with Valencia. The title of my mentorship is OpenStack Foundation Horizon UI. A little bit about my mentorship. This is through OpenStack Horizon. Horizon is the Django-based project aimed at providing a complete OpenStack dashboard along with an extensible framework for building new dashboards from reusable components. OpenStack Dashboard is a web-based user interface to OpenStack services including Nova, Swift, Keystone, and many others. My tasks during the mentorship were running a virtual machine with VirtualBox, deploying the Horizon project locally through the terminal, fixing any bugs suggested by my mentor or any of the low-hanging fruit bugs in the bug database, using the terminal to edit code with Nano, and sending code up for review with Garrett. Prior to this course, I was familiar with Java, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, as well as MySQL. I had not been exposed to Python yet, so in the beginning of the course, I took about 2 to 3 weeks to dive into Code Academy's Python courses. I learned some of the basics and intermediate Python code commands. Also, I got more comfortable with Linux bash commands. In the past, I've always avoided using the terminal. I've always kind of leaned more towards the GUI interfaces. The terminal is always intimidating to me, and it's not very user friendly, especially if you're new. But I took it upon myself this semester to get more comfortable using Linux bash commands strictly from the terminal, as well as Git. Prior to this course, I used Git through GitHub, using all their GUI interfaces to make everything easier and simpler. But again, I put it upon myself to learn Git and using Git strictly from the terminal. And looking back, it was very beneficial for me to do that. I feel very comfortable now using Git and Linux bash commands through the terminal. Some of the tools we used during the mentorship were Internet Relay Chat. It's the IRC. This is used to communicate with project teams, technical committee, SIGs, and other working groups. It's also used to participate in regular meetings with the above groups. For example, Horizon had a weekly meeting every Wednesday at 11 a.m. to kind of just go over any issues, any updates, any problems we were having throughout the week. The Open Infrastructure Foundation account. This account is to contribute to OpenStack projects, allows you to vote in elections and run for elected positions in the OpenStack project. We also use Storyboard account. Storyboard is a bug tracking software the OpenStack community is using and developing. We use Git. Git is a free and open source distributed version control system that the OpenStack community uses to manage changes to source code and documentation. We also use Garrett. Garrett is a review system the OpenStack community uses. We use Zool. Zool is a tool written and ran by the OpenStack infrastructure team that is used to manage running continuous infrastructure jobs. It provides with the way to define test jobs that will run on each proposed commit. These tests are required to pass in order for any other proposed patch to merge. And finally, we use Oracle VM, VirtualBox, to get everything running and deployed locally. During the implementation phase of the project, first you have to get prepared. Preparation took a couple of weeks just to get familiar with virtual machine using VirtualBox and setting that up. Also getting familiar with Python, learning all of the code, and basic to intermediate kind of concepts so you can deal with bugs and fixing bugs within the mentorship. You also had to get familiar with Linux bash commands and using the terminal, as well as editing files with Vim or Nano. The deployment of the project, it was successfully deployed locally through the terminal and using a local host port. Ongoing, there were no major changes or pivots within the project, weekly team meetings, and assigning of bugs to fix. Some of the finding and results that I had, initially, the documentation that I found for initial setup was a bit misleading. I had technical issues getting deployed locally, and it took a lot of trial and error to finally get it deployed locally. I'll go over this a little more in depth in the next slide, but I definitely had a major setback in getting the Horizon project deployed locally. I I'm not sure. I believe I just found the documentation online a bit misleading. It wasn't as straightforward as I would have liked it. And it I guess it kind of took me places where I should not have been. It should have, looking back now, it definitely should have been a more simple and easier deployment. I guess also knowing OpenStack services and how it works could really help in debugging and fixing bugs within Horizon. Initially, I didn't have much background on OpenStack and what services it provided. Initially, I had an issue recreating the bug that I was assigned locally. And I guess just having background and overall knowledge on OpenStack would have helped me recreate that bug locally sooner. My biggest technical challenge was deploying the Horizon OpenStack dashboard project locally. I personally found some of the documentation a bit confusing at first. So in this slide, I would just like to provide some tips for any new students joining the Horizon dashboard project. Quick note, this section is only for deploying Horizon locally via Quick Start. Once you're at the Quick Start page, scroll down until you reach the snippet below and click on the hyperlink devstack.org. Once you're at devstack.org, follow all the documented Linux commands until you reach the start the install. This last command will be ./stack.sh. It'll take about 15 to 30 minutes depending on your Wi-Fi to complete. Once you're done, go back to the quick start page and follow all the documented Linux commands until you reach the command togs-e-run server. Once that's done, open up a web browser, and the web browser should type in localhost, and it should look like the snippet below. If it does, congratulations, you are good to go. Some of the success I had in the mentorship was becoming more efficient in using tools like the terminal, virtual machine, nano, and git commands from the terminal versus using a GUI interface. Also successfully deploying the Horizon dashboard project locally after being stuck on it for about a week and a half. Some of the disappointments I had in the mentorship was just the feeling of being lost after numerous attempts of trial and error. One, in deploying the project locally, and two, not being able to reproduce my first bug locally. I just had an issue where I finally got the project deployed locally. I got assigned my first bug, and I was just simply not able to reproduce that bug in my local machine. I also wanted more of a one-on-one mentorship experience and guidance rather than them having me reach out via IRC for any issues or troubleshooting I was having. I was very busy this semester with work. I do partnership tax. I was working about 50, 60 hours a week. So a lot of the time that I could be working on the mentorship was on the weekends. When I would reach out via IRC in the weekends, no one ever really replied to my issues or my concerns, and understandably so. It was just I was wishing more of a one-on-one mentorship experience than reach out via IRC. Some of the project do-overs for me is just uh, I wish this mentorship would have started sooner for me. I was a late add-on to the mentorship project, thus I didn't have enough time to work on multiple bugs. In retrospect, I also hope for a little more guidance mentorship from an actual mentor versus reaching out via IRC. And from my part, I would have done more research on OpenStack services and overall knowledge just to have a basic understanding of OpenStack and what it does. And finally, I'd just like to say thank you to Professor Corey Leung for providing this platform and the opportunity to learn alongside some of the industry's professionals and get a real world experience. Also, big thanks to the Horizon OpenStack team and Kendall Nelson for the opportunity to work on this project and exposure. Um, Good thing about this project and this course is it allows you to continue being a contributor to these projects. So I look forward to continue contributing and growing as a developer. Thank you.